good people, Danita Sims here with another Tidbit Tuesday. This week, I wanted to discuss something we don't always like to talk about. It's kind of a secret among Christians. Shh. There are some things that I feel like we can be free to be transparent about because our test can be turned into a testimony to encourage other people. But what about those things that we're concerned about that happen in the dark that we aren't so forthcoming about? There are some things that are hidden, and I am so grateful. Sometimes there are things that should only be shared among your inner circle, things that you might struggle with, things that still might be an issue for you even right now today. It's not that it shouldn't be shared at all, because the word does tell us to confess one to another. But there are some things that God deals with us in private for a reason. I believe it was after college. Here I was heading towards senior year in college, and I was ready to go. I was so torn because the profession I thought I was going to walk into was now not looking that appealing. And so God had to really deal with me to go over, hey, what do you like about what you studied so far? What do you dislike? Are there some other careers out there that may fit your interests and your passions that you don't quite know yet? So I had to allow myself to explore other options in my career. Had I listened to certain people in my life and just went blindly towards what they were suggesting to me, I probably would have ended up in a career I just couldn't stand. And I think sometimes when we're moving forward in life, we don't really know the answer, but we kind of have an inkling of what fits for us. Those are the times that we have to be vulnerable enough to allow God to deal with our secret concerns. For instance, while I was going through my own divorce years ago, there were only a few people I talked to during that time. Now, of course, now that I have my book, God released me to say some things about that part of my journey, but definitely not everything was shared. There's a reason for that. I learned to be wise about who I share this information with during the storm. There were some times where I had groups of women that I loved and felt like I was really close to tell me some pretty seedy advice to hurry up and move on to another man. That was completely toxic. I wasn't anywhere near close to healing before they told me to just pick up somebody who paid attention to me and spend time with him. Initially, it didn't sound very seedy or rude. At the time, I could tell that they loved me and they didn't want to see me hurt anymore. That does not mean it's a wise thing to do at that point in my journey. I also had some people who hadn't had a relationship with God to the point where they actually heard Holy Spirit tell them certain things in their life. So if they had never heard Holy Spirit, then they probably weren't hearing Holy Spirit in my situation. Probably. Things that they were telling me just didn't sit right with my spirit when I would get in my prayer time, when I would go through my fasting. It didn't mesh well. There was a point in time where I limited who I talked to in that hurtful season. That season of stretching, as some of us like to call it. Some things are going to be hidden from the majority of people you know. I would encourage you, even if you have tons of friends, they're probably going to have tons of different opinions about what you're trying to do in your life. Let God deal with the secret things. There's a purpose for that. I'm so grateful that at each phase of my life, when I came across a crossroads, God strategically placed certain people in my life who heard Holy Spirit and who encouraged me through it all. So yes, we might see some things in the tabloids and things like that that might be scandalous for other Christians. But most of the time, those things that come out are things that God has probably been trying to deal with us over a longer period of time. And it just comes to a head when it comes out in the open. So I would hate for you to be sitting on an issue that you haven't prayed about, haven't fasted about, and haven't confessed to those that you trust. Because once it comes out, you really can't take it back in. Take the opportunity to deal with those things you feel that Holy Spirit is really nagging at you about. Don't try to keep them away from God. He knows us. He created us. Trust me, He can handle it. And ask Him, Who can I share my journey with so I can have accountability? Don't air your dirty laundry on social media. This is not a therapy session and it is not a safe space. Go to your pastor. They probably have a leader that you can talk to. They may even have a ministry that meets pretty regularly that you can tap into for your concerns. That way you become an advocate, not just for your own healing and restoration, but for others around you that are dealing with the same thing. Most of us are dealing with the same thing. Happy Tuesday.